Good morning, everyone. I am Yvonne Mason along with Mary Brotherton, and we host All Things Books and Publishing. This morning, before we get started with our regularly scheduled program, Mary's got some exciting news, and I'm going to let her share it because she is just over the moon, as she should be.
I've already passed Mars and Venus by now. I got the news yesterday while Yvonne and I were having a strategy lunch. And y'all, Ramonda's extended warranty. I was looking up something else. Yvonne and I were looking up a specific author, trying to get some information. And the information I found on my phone didn't jive with what I would have found on my computer. So I said, well, let me see if it's working, if it's phone or book problem. So I looked up Ramonda's extended warranty because I knew that it was formatted on my computer the way I needed to get the information yesterday. And at the very, very top in red, it said, top new release. And Yvonne had actually stepped away from the table for a minute. And when she came back, I'm sure I looked like a bottle of champagne that somebody shook up. I was bubbling, and then the next thing I know, I was blubbering. I was so excited until this morning. I go on because I needed to get a copy of I made a screenshot of it with my phone, but then I made I wanted a one from my computer so I could do some announcing. Y'all, Ramonda's not only in the top new releases. That book is #1. And I know it's because people have been pre-ordering, people have been ordering, people have been even just looking. You go to the book and you click it, that shows interest. You don't have to necessarily buy it for it to be ranked up the ladder. But I was giddy and excited when Ramonda was #10. And then I was excited over a couple of other books because they were under 1,000. But #1, y'all, this has been my dream from I don't know how old. Probably as old as I could hold a book and realize that they got ranked. I'm thankful, I'm grateful, because if y'all had not gone and just at least clicked the book, it wouldn't have ranked up to #1. Now, in an hour, they may revise the ranking and Ramonda might be down the line. But as long as she's #1, I'm going to be celebrating and rejoicing. This is a God moment, because Ramonda's extended warranty was not one of the books that I've had on my computer for 15, 20, 30, 40 years. It was a brand new moment, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
About 2 weeks ago, I talked to Yvonne. I said, before I send you a manuscript, I've got a new book. And Yvonne's like, oh my gosh, what now? Because I've told her about most of all my books that are... A lot of artists have works in progress. I have works in waiting. They've been finished for years. And I just needed Yvonne to help push me over the ledge. I mean, push me over the...
Over the balcony. From the balcony.
Over the balcony, yes. She pushed me over the balcony, and I gained some wings, and I've been flying ever since. The day before I told Yvonne that I had a new book that I wanted to send, Yvonne's 13-year-old granddaughter came to visit me. And y'all might think that's no big deal. You and Yvonne have been friends for 20 years. Why wouldn't her granddaughter visit you? Well, this particular granddaughter does not live on Earth. More than 10 years ago, Ramonda passed away. And the little darling had asthma from the time she was 2 weeks old. And asthma is what took her life. I had a sister-in-law who died from asthma, but she was much, much older than Ramonda. And Ramonda's story could have ended there. Sad little tale of a little girl who died before she got to go to her prom. But the story will never end because Ramonda's parents, John and Brandy Highfield, absolutely salt of the earth kind of human visuals.
Vegetables, I like that. Human vegetables.
People, good old salt of the earth folks, hardworking. They, prior to Ramonda passing on, she encouraged her father to become an EMT, first responder. And because of his knowledge of that and his knowledge of organ donations, when everybody else in the family was standing around in shock, John was performing CPR. And he knew that Ramonda dead. But he performed CPR anyway because he wanted to keep her organs viable. And because of Ramonda and her parents and her father's quick thinking, that little girl saved another little girl about the same age as her, I think a year younger, who now would be 23 years old. And she helped a grandmother. She helped, I think it was a father, but with kidney, organs, retinas, all kinds of. So anyway, Ramonda was standing at my bed as a ghost girl is what I call her sometimes, or a spirit child. And because I do talk to dead people, it was not that difficult for me to realize that this wasn't a figment of my imagination or a leftover dream. And she just stood there and said, hello. And I said, well, hello to you. Who are you? And she said, I'm Ramonda. Now come on. You have to help me write my book. Literally, as I'm walking, for all practical purposes, all by myself, nobody else could see Ramonda, but I'm walking down the hall in my house to my office, and she's chattering up a storm. She's telling me all these things she wants me to write about. And one of the things that she emphasized was this has to be a graphic novel. I want a graphic novel. And she told me so many things about her family. And Yvonne told me a few other things, which helped me make the story more realistic and understanding. It's a novel, but it's absolutely based on the events that led us to here today. And now this graphic novel is #1. And I'm, like I said, I've shot past the moon, gone past Mars. I'm about to Venus, and I think I'm on my way to what's next, Jupiter, Saturn, I don't even know.
Could be. Pluto, which is no longer a planet. So you see, ladies and
Well,
gentlemen.
you know, that's okay. I still like Pluto. The
There
big
you
floppy-eared dog.
And we're going to touch on this for a few minutes before we get into the heart of our podcast here. Because Mary allowed herself to trust the process of getting her books to me, allowing me to do what I do well. This is where she is today. And it is because Mary trusted the process. She did not micromanage. She did not dig in her heels and say, this is going to be this way. I want it this way. I don't care what you say. My friends and family says it doesn't look right, so change it. Mary didn't do that. Mary said,
I waited for friends and family. And you know, years ago I did that. I would second guess myself. I wish my son could be listening to this because he needs to hear this. He's a brilliant writer. He really is. I can't wait for Yvonne to see what he does. He's the kind of writer that makes readers think a little bit. He doesn't spoon feed you. He doesn't mind using big words. I have to look up half the stuff I read from him because he's just got an extremely large vocabulary because he reads a lot. And he's one of these writers that loves to second guess himself. And trusting the process is very difficult for him. And he and I have been talking about this a lot. If I can let go, I think everybody can let go. You know the old phrase, everywhere you go, you meet an idiot. Maybe you're the idiot. Although usually people use a word that starts with A and ends with another word. I mean, it's true. If everywhere you go, you see a narcissist. Well, maybe you're the narcissist. For me, everywhere I go, I find a writer. I really do. I find people who want to write or have written, and because that's you attract whatever it is you're putting out. But if you're constantly second guessing yourself and you're constantly thinking, Yvonne and I talked about this yesterday. I was raised, as was she, by mothers who had to learn the hard way. If you want something done right, do it yourself. But nobody is perfect. Not a single person walking this earth today is perfect. And yeah, if you want it done in slow motion, do it yourself. If you want it done faster than a rabbit can have babies, give it to Yvonne.
And rabbits have babies very fast. And very often.
Yes, they do. Yes. Well, they're rodents. What do you expect?
That's true.
But I think they're actually not quite a rodent, but they're connected to that family. But anyway, because I very reluctantly gave Yvonne my first manuscript, and I thought, this will take 6 months. What's the big deal, you know? Within 6 hours, I think, she had sent me the rough draft of the cover. I said, what do you think? I was blown away. And she said, Mary, trust me. I mean, I started going down my list of works in progress. And I was telling her, well, I've got this and this and this and this. They're done. I just need an illustrator. And then I got this and this and this. And they're done, except I just need to put them all in one file. They're just individual stories. And then I got this novel, and I got that novel, and I got this screenplay, and I got that. And Yvonne said, stop. You're blah. You're driving yourself crazy. Stop it. Go home and write a list. Now, I've had a list of my works in progress for years, but I didn't update it with my newly published books. I just had these are ideas. And some of them are just ideas. I'll get to them when I get to them. But when I've got books on a sheet of paper, I can just go down this list. And usually that's what I was doing. I was sending Yvonne book after book, and she was, since August, which was 4 months ago, 3 months ago?
Yep, 4 months ago.
Early August, I think August 8th was the first book. The month of October, she had 6 children's books, brand new children's books out there for me. And so, like I said, these are books that have been sitting on my computer for years, just waiting for me to get out the way. Just move. Get out of the way and let Yvonne do it. And that's what I started doing. The first one and the second one and the third, I was like, ooh. Yeah, the whole time. And then after like the third one, I'm like, whatever you want to do, you just do. There have been very few things. I think my Lizard Patrol was one where I was like, could we give him white paws? I know as a AI artist how difficult sometimes getting that one thing right is. But she did. She didn't complain. But I will tell you, if I had come back and said, well, could you make the left paw go up a little higher and make the right paw go a little bit lower? Because that would have been more realistic. Oh, she would have been calling me all kinds of bad words. There are limits, don't be pushy. But Yvonne she'll work with us. She's always worked with me, and I've seen the work she's done with other authors that have been, believe it or not, pickier than I am. But she got those books out, and I didn't know what to do with myself. I had so much freedom. So I started going through my files and finding more books. I think the reason Ramonda's book is so precious to me is because of the way it was delivered to me, the way I had the idea to. I mean, Yvonne and I talked for a while about possibly writing a book about Ramonda's life and legacy. But I couldn't just write the book without in my mind, I'm like, well, I need to contact Brandy and I need to interview maybe Brittany and Christian and who knows. Let me talk to John. But Rhonda wasn't having any of that. Let me overthink this. She basically took me by the hand and said, come on, we've got work to do. And I sat right here in this office and I wrote for about 9 hours. Had the book mostly done, and then the next morning I woke up and Ramonda's like, you're not done with the book, but I can't talk to you right now. Her daddy was having surgery that day. And I know she, as a spirit, could have been in both places at once. She chose to focus her attention on her daddy. Almost to the moment that I found out that John was out of surgery and doing okay, Ramonda was at my side. She said, okay, now let's talk about my brothers. Okay. So, because that was such a new book that came so fast, it's really, I don't know, it's like having a baby. It's very special.
And it will continue to be special because it talks about organ donation and the fact, and what people don't understand with organ donation, and what I told the kids when this all happened, we have family members we don't know that are living, and I'm not talking about ancestors, because when you donate an organ, part of your DNA goes into that body. It's just the way it is, because you think
when
about
you donate blood.
Yeah, part of your DNA goes into that other body. So while the parents of this child and we think they have survivor's guilt, which, and I'm going to say this publicly, do not have survivor's guilt. It was a gift given in love, and we hope that it was received in love, because Ramonda no longer needed those organs. What were they going to do? Rot with the rest of her body? I mean, I'm a realist. So is my daughter. And the realism is, why not allow those organs to help another family at least have more time? And people say, well, you know, it's a big business. Yes, it is a big business. I agree. It is a big business. Are there people out there that harvest organs illegally and selfishly? Oh, absolutely. But that's true in anything we do. There are scammers out there. There are crooks out there. There are people that take body parts that they shouldn't. I agree. But I also know that where Ramonda was, which is the Children's Hospital of Atlanta, better known as Scottish Rite, that those people did everything they possibly could to make sure that that baby was absolutely brain dead. And again, I'm a realist. And when there is no brain activity, the only thing that was keeping her chest moving and her lungs moving were machines. It was time to let go. And when we can accept that everybody has an expiration date. Ramonda's expiration date just happened to be earlier than what most people would expect. But she still lives on.
Yeah.
And we don't know what that young lady is doing now. I hope she is living the dream that God has put her on this earth for.
Oh, I do too. And, you know, it's easy for me to look at my cousin, who was the inspiration behind Sally's Heart, which is a book specifically for children, not for the older children. This is for younger kids. My cousin was in her late 20s, early 30s when she was diagnosed with cardiomyopathy.
That word.
Big medical term. Yeah. And very quickly she was put on a heart transplant list. For years, her health declined. By then, she'd already given birth. She had two little young girls. She thought she would never watch them grow up. And now Linda has had someone's heart in her chest for 25, 26 years. And she has grandchildren. You don't ever know what someone, and Linda is, I mean, she's living a pretty robust life. And she appears to be happy. Tells me she is. She's smiling all the time. So who can say what our purpose on life is?
And we
Or
are
how
told that,
long-
we are told in the Bible that a greater love hath no man than to give up his life for a friend. And basically,
Yep.
that is what happened. And it was all in God's plan. So before people come at us sideways and say, how dare you, or how could you, you have to walk that journey. You have to understand all of the history and everything behind that. And you have to understand that the idea to donate this child's organs was not lightly thought out. And that the people at Shoah sat down with us and talked to my daughter and her husband and me and explained everything. And when that decision was made, the kids were given 24 hours to be with their child and to spend those last few remaining hours with her. They were not pushed aside. My children were treated like royalty, and so is that child. So, yes,
Because
it's a big
they
business.
are.
Yes, they are royalty. And yes, it's a big business. Yes, it is a business. And yes, it can be abused like any other business. There are nonprofits that are abused every day. Millions of dollars are stolen by those who are entrusted with the money. So I am just grateful that Mary was willing to write the book, and that
I don't think I had much choice.
no, you didn't. No, you didn't. Ramonda could be very demanding when she wanted to. She's a very loving child, but she could be very yeah. Of course, she's her grandmother's granddaughter, so what do you expect?
I was going to ask you how far from the tree she had to roll.
Not very far.
Yeah.
I think she was still hanging on to a branch. So, with that being said, congratulations to Mary on it being number one. Now, the categories that we put this book in helped. The categories were children and adolescent asthma and asthma. For those of you that do not know, asthma is the leading cause of death in children between the years of 10 years old and 15 years old. It is not always diagnosed properly, and it is not always treated properly, and it is not always accepted as a diagnosis. Because denial is a river in Egypt. Parents deny it, the medical field denies it, and children die.
Educators deny it too.
Educators deny it. Ramonda was bullied by kids in her class as well as her teachers. There was an instance where her PE coach knew that she could not run because her asthma was so far advanced. He made her run. They had to transport her from the school in an ambulance. I told Brandy, he says, there is a walking lawsuit there. So if your child is asthmatic, be their advocate. Do not allow anyone to bully them, because it is a very real disease. And what happens when a child or an adult has an asthma attack, you can get the air in, but the air will not come out. So when there's so much air in the lungs, there's nowhere for it to go. So it blows out the brainstem, because that's the only place for it to go.
If a child was in a wheelchair, nobody would make the child run. If the child had cerebral palsy and ran with a gait, they would maybe be asked to run, but it would be accepted that they couldn't run as well as children with a normal gait. Asthma is one of those invisible diseases. It's like seizures. Unless you're in the process of actively triggering that condition, nobody would ever know that you have it. And unfortunately, in our society, we don't always take people at their word that, I'm sorry, I can't do this. It's physically
Same thing with
impossible.
diabetes. Same thing with diabetes.
Yeah.
Same thing with mental health issues. These are all invisible illnesses. Same thing with heart trouble. If you can't see it, most people don't believe it. So with that being said,
Got an idea.
she's got an idea. Oh, heaven help us. With that being said,
Huh?
we talked a few minutes about trusting the process. We have a new author we want to officially welcome on this podcast, and his name is Dale Vili.
Really.
Vili. I can never get his name right. Vili. I'm going to get it right one of these days.
Well, it
Dale
took me a minute because I would, with the way it's spelled, I would pronounce it Veli.
So
But
what happened?
it is, he told
It's
me it's
Vili.
Vili.
Vili. So 2
Like,
years ago.
like you got feelings. And I will tell you, Dale's book will bring up some feelings.
He met Mary 2 years ago, told Mary he had this book going, and he was writing it on everything except the computer. And then he met with me, and he says, it's not on a computer. I said, I can't help you. You got to get it to me in a manuscript form via email, because I'm not going to transcribe it on a computer. Yvonne doesn't do that. Don't send it to me through the telephone. Don't send it to me in snail mail. Ain't going to happen. So anyway, he finally got it together and sent it to me. And Mary spent many, many minutes on the phone telling him to trust the process, because he's another one of those that just can't let go. So he told Mary that he had an idea for a cover, and she said, well, send it to Yvonne, but don't be surprised if she sends you back another cover that's even better. Well, he didn't send me his idea for a cover. He just sent me the manuscript. And as I'm reading this manuscript, it's called I See You, Love from a Different Perspective. And the synopsis of the book is we look at people, but we don't really see people. When you're in an art gallery and you're looking at a piece of artwork, a painting, a statue, a sculpture, do you really see the painting, or you just walk by and look at it and go, oh, that's nice? I've been in many art galleries, and as an artist, art interests me. And when I look at a painting, I see that painting. I see things in a painting that other people miss. Sometimes it's very subtle, and sometimes it's in your face, but because it's a painting, you only focus on the tunnel vision of the painting. You don't see the other things.
You don't see the big picture.
No. So, as I'm reading his book, I'm going, I understand exactly what he's saying. And while I'm reading this book, I see the cover. I don't just look at a rough draft of a cover in my mind. I see the cover. So I send him the mock-up, front and back, and he sends me an email back, and he says, you put me in tears, because it was exactly what he had envisioned, only better. And Mary will tell you about the cover, because she couldn't quit looking at it either.
The eyes that Yvonne found to go with this, they look like they're piercing through to your soul. And then it's like the eyes of this person are looking through the energetic heart, because the heart that Yvonne found to go on this, it kind of circulates like this, but it's only the eyes, so it's just like my big glasses, but shaped in a heart. And she could have just done an outline of a little heart, and I have another story in a minute about hearts. it looks like hearts on fire almost. There's just so much energy. And that's part of what Dale talks about in his book, is that love from the perspective of love your human, love your neighbor as yourself kind of thing. It's an energy, it's a feeling. Love is not Hallmark Rose's Valentine's Day. It's looking at a homeless woman and thinking, what would I do if that was my child? Every human is someone's child, whether that parent is still alive or not. Every one of us has had parents. So we are all children. We're children of the universe, children of God, whatever way you want to put it. And Dale came to this from a very unique perspective himself, because he was raised as a fourth generation. He didn't mention the denomination in his book, so I won't mention it here, but through Christian dogma. And he talked about how they were very rigid with taking biblical quotes out of context to get their point across. He did a lot of quoting in his book where he would explain, and he wouldn't just take, a lot of people are familiar with John 3:16, the verse about, for God loved the world so much he gave his only begotten son. But you got to read John 3:15 and John 3:17 to really get an idea of what that's saying. A lot of people like to take a single Bible verse and beat you over the head with it and say, you must do this, this, and this, or else you're just doomed. And Dale had a moment where he woke up, and instead of seeing a little girl like Ramonda, he saw a homeless woman as if she was his own daughter. And he said that totally changed how he looked at everybody from that moment on. The other story I was going to tell you about hearts has to do with Ramonda. Because the very first thing I did when I got home from my lunch yesterday is I took that little screenshot, and now there were two people that had to see the screenshot of top seller right there in the restaurant. And we sent them a copy of it. But then when I got home, I thought, well, I need to tell my sons, I need to tell my grandson, I need to tell my best friend in this state, I need to tell my best friend in that state, so I started texting all these people that I thought would care, and they did. They responded with utter love and blew me away. One woman in North Carolina even called me. She said, I couldn't just say congrats. I had to talk to you about it. So we talked about books. She's an author too. Another story. But one of the people that I had sent the text to came back. She goes, congratulations, this is great, but I have to ask you, why do you have 1111 on it? So I explained to her that Ramonda, as young as probably 11, maybe younger, I don't know, she would tell her brothers and sisters, or her nana, she'd tell anybody, hey, it's 1111, make a wish. And anybody who knows about numerology understands that. But if you've never studied numerology or been exposed to it, you're like this woman who said, well, why does it have 1111 on it? So I did a real quick look. There are things I know, but I can't really express them concisely. Imagine that. But I looked it up real quickly, and I got the numerology explanation that 11s are associated with divinity. And if you constantly see the number 11 repeated, you can know that somebody is trying to get your attention. And the whole time that I was writing the business plan for Be Unique, it seems like 100 years ago, but it was less than 10. Every day that I'd sit down to work on that business plan, I'd see not just 11s, but I'd see other times or other numbers would pop up in repetition. So I told this young lady about what 1111 meant and why it was on the cover of the book. And she said, my husband and I see 1111 everywhere. On the microwave, on the computer, on receipts, on license tags in front of us. Saw it on a phone number on a billboard the other day. What are we supposed to do? What does it mean? So I wrote back what Ramonda had said. It's 1111. Make a wish. If you see that, know that the universe is trying to get your attention. And I call it the universe, but it's also God. It's the Holy Spirit, if you will. Angels love to use the 11s to get your attention. We see cardinals. We know that a loved one has come to visit, or butterflies, or dragonflies. But we also see it in numbers. So that's why we have 1111 on the cover of Ramonda's Extended Warranty, which my husband thinks is such a silly, silly title. But if you read the book, you understand it.
And because he doesn't understand the journey.
Yeah. But I like to do that with my books and with my, even the stories that I write. I like to have the title be referenced a little later on. I remember picking up a book by Elmore Leonard, who I just adore his writing style, called The Women Come Out to Dance at Night, or The Women at Night Come Out to Dance, something like that. I forget the exact title. But I thought it was a cool title. And it was a collection of short stories, and he had one story in there that reflected that title. And it was like buried in the back of the book, and I'm like, well, finally I know why he called this book this. So
and
I try to emulate the bestsellers.
This is what good authors do. They allow the book to give the title to the book. When Mary was first writing this book, she had a working title, but we were talking about how her father kept her organs viable, whether intentionally or unintentionally, for these other folks, and how he's a mechanic. And there it was, Ramonda's Extended Warranty. And it fits the book. And when you read the book, you will understand the title, and you will understand why Mary chose it, or it chose her. We don't know. None of us that write books know why titles. They just happen. But back to Dale's book.
And I can tell you,
go ahead.
With our characters, especially with fiction, it's not uncommon for an author to have a character named Joe all through the book, get to the end and go, oh, wait a minute, his name isn't really Joel. It might be Joel, it might be Joseph, or it might be Bob or Harry. But when and that happened to me in Steep Steps with several characters. They were like, no, that's not who I am. And once you rename them, you change their name, and some of their characteristics change, and you have to go back and make some revisions.
And that's how it works in our world. We are at the mercy of the characters in our books all the time. But I'm going to circle back around to Dale's book, which has not even been released yet. It will not go live until the 18th of this month. However, because I do 7-second videos on our YouTube site, which is under Yvonne Mason and Midnight Publishing, that book has already had 106 views.
Unbelievable.
Day before yesterday is when I put it up. So, and it's trusting the process. Ramonda's book, I put it up under several videos because I wanted to get it out there, and it's had a total of 221 views. So when you trust the process, things happen in ways that you don't even know, because there's a lot that goes on in the background that I don't always tell the authors about. I just go out and do it and surprise them.
Nope, she likes to surprise us.
And then, like Ellie Ryan messaged me last night. She said, how did I get to be the bestseller for Midnight Publishing in November? So this morning I sent her an email back and said, because you sold this many books, that's why. And she didn't even realize it until we put it up. Because it's a nice surprise to our authors when we give them things to motivate them to move forward with their next book, to understand that they did trust the process, and because they trusted the process, these are the rewards of their journey. But when I have to go back and change titles and change covers and change this and change that, and number one, the more you mess with the book, pretty soon it starts screwing itself up because it gets tired of you messing with it. It's like a baby. If you handle a baby more than that baby wants to be handled, you're going to have one irritated baby that you can't shut up. Same thing with a book. The more an author makes me mess with their book, the more likelihood of errors, because number one, I'm human, and number two, if I have to go in and chop and add and redo the cover, things are going to get misspelled, things are going to get left out. So it should be a one and done. Move on to something else. Let it go, as they say in Frozen.
That's what I've
Let
done.
it go.
And
That's what Mary's done.
I
And
know
the rewards are
everybody
great.
doesn't have, right, everybody doesn't have a computer full of files waiting. But if you try to manage or micromanage every aspect of what Yvonne is doing, number one, you don't want to annoy her. Really.
No, it's ugly.
She's got an army of monkeys waiting to fly out and attack. But you don't want to be the one Yvonne and I talk about over lunch either.
And you also don't want to get an email from me that says, I regret to inform you, but due to the fact that no matter what Midnight Publishing does to try to make your book live, you absolutely refuse to trust the process, so you're going to have to go somewhere else. It's that simple. I do not have
We are in
time.
the process of, we're creating contracts for our upcoming, the authors who are with us now, I think will be okay. But new authors are going to have to sign a contract, and trusting the process is part of that contract.
And it's not a contract
so
that you have
important.
to be with us. Yeah, it's not a contract that says you got to be with us for a year and you got to do A, B, C, and D. The body of the contract is you trust the process. And after the second time you say, oh, I need you to change the cover. Oh, I need you to change this graphic. Oh, I need you to change that. Then we're done, because we are growing exponentially. And in that growth, the authors have to understand every author is special. They're all like my firstborn. Every author deserves my attention, and not just in passing. So if you're going to be so dogmatic, and so I'm going to have it my way, regardless of your expertise and your knowledge and your wisdom, I'm going to have it my way, then what I'm going to tell you is, okay, you can have it your way someplace else, but not here.
And just because someone may be an expert in one thing, like, okay, Sherry Ann Richardson, she is our resident expert on homesteading and everything cacao, cocoa beans, cocoa seeds, the original cacao and the history. She is it. She's the one that gardeners and garden societies contact and say, would you come and speak to our group and bring your book for signing? Sherry Ann is smart enough to know I'm the expert in homesteading and everything chocolate. I mean, her book is called The Chocolate Lover's Garden, right? I started to say The Chocolate Lover's Dream, but I knew that was just my head talking. But anyway, she knows everything there is to know about her subjects. She doesn't know everything there is to know about publishing, because she's not an expert in all things. She's an expert in one thing. Me, I'm more of a Jack or Jill of all trades. I'm writing currently under 7 genres. Most people don't do that. Most people pick a lane and they stay in it, like camping in the left lane in Florida. But Yvonne knows books. She knows formatting. She knows illustration. She knows Amazon. And that's one of the keys. Now, is Amazon the end of the world for authors? No. But it's a start. And I know that Dale Veely has 1 or 2 book signings already planned for his book, I See You. I met him at one of my book signings. So that was how he came on board to Midnight Publishing 2 years later. I mean, Midnight Publishing wasn't even a thing when I met Dale. But we are a family. We are a messy, grumpy, irritable, happy, whatever emotions you've got. Yeah, we're just like any other family, but it's a family of writers and readers. We have a lot of readers who follow our pages because they want to know when our books come out. And let me tell you, if you've got a favorite author on Midnight Publishing or anywhere, go to Amazon, click follow the author on their author's page. You'll get a notification every time they drop a new book.
Every time, without fail.
Every single time.
And what I tell new authors that want to come on board is I've been marketing since I was a little girl. My mother used to tell people I could sell snowballs to Eskimos when I was a little girl. I know marketing. I know the trends. I know children. Trust me, I know children. I've been raising children since I was 2 years old. So I know children. I also remember when I was at one time a child's age, even though my mind was so far advanced that I pissed off the teachers. And when I had to read those elementary school books that were called the Dick and Jane series, I was bored. At 6 years old, I was bored because they were so simplistic and they did not light my imagination. They did not make me want to read more of those series. What it made me want to do was go to the 5th grade level and pull those books and have the librarian tell me I wasn't smart enough to read them. I fixed her real quick. But that being said, I know what works and what doesn't. And when something new comes along, like our AI graphics, I'm going to try it. I'm going to embrace it. Because you have to keep a child engaged in a children's book. And when you give them simplistic graphics and simplistic wording, you are doing them a disservice and you're insulting their intelligence. Because I guarantee you there are more children out there who are on a higher scale of reading and comprehension than there isn't. And I'm not saying that we don't market to those kids as well. But the way we market to them is not by dumbing them down. We market to them here and let them raise themselves, and they will. Because they want to grow intellectually. Go ahead, Mary.
The son of mine that I said was a writer with the big vocabulary, that's because we used to have to take him to doctor's appointments that were an hour away. And we would stop by the library, get a book on cassette by Dean Koontz, who is one of the biggest word persons I know. And so Matt and I would drive, Matt would sit there with a notepad, and when a word would come across that he didn't know, he'd write it down. And as soon as we got to a dictionary, because we're talking more than 40 years ago, before computers, before cell phones, before Google, oh my gosh. But he would write down the word, and then as soon as we got back to the house with and Koontz is one of those writers that's talented enough that you grasp it from the context, but you still want to know what the word hubris means, or you want to know what the word yowling means. So Matt would just go home, and I mean, he was the greatest kid because he kept his nose in books all the time. Very seldom did I have to worry about him. His brother, on the other hand, he's also a reader, but his brother was busy getting into more mischief than he was reading.
Gwendolyn Law's son is a great example of he can't read. He doesn't read for whatever reason, but he loves listening to Audible. Well, both of her books are on Audible, and it thrills him to death to be able to hear his mother's story being told. So there are so many ways. Sadly, I can't put my children's books on Audible because they have to be in chapters, and most of our children's books are not in chapters. Ramonda's extended warranty is on Audible, and there is another children's book that will be on, as long as they're in chapters, I can get them on Audible. But most children's books are not, but they are up on Kindle. So again, we're back to trust the process. Just trust trust that when you give me something, that it's going to be okay. Because even though we don't charge in this business, my time is valuable. I know Mary's is. My time is valuable. I have put my writing on hold to take care of my authors right now because I'm getting books in daily. I've got 2 books I need to finish. But my time will come. Right now, God is saying, get these people out there. So that's what I'm doing. So if you're coming to us and you want us to publish you, then you've got to trust that when we tell you we know what we're doing, that we know what we're doing. That brings us back to the original title of this podcast, which is how to make the scammers work for you. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you, as you get out there, you're going to be hit by scammers in your email and phone calls, on your Facebook page, on all your social media. Oh, I saw you have a new book out. How can I help you make it sell? Your first comment should be, which book? Mary,
buy my book.
Tell the audience how scammers get just enough information to whet the curiosity of that author.
Well, depending on what they're trying to sell, they go through the new releases on Amazon. And I'm shocked I haven't gotten a massive attack over Ramonda yet. But they'll go through the new releases, and sometimes I have been hit the day of a release or the day that the pre-order goes live. They're like, oh, I see you have a new book out called Faith and Folly, but it doesn't have very many reviews. I can help you with that. And they'll give you just enough of a blurb. They take whatever they find on Amazon. Because, you can read an excerpt from the book. You can listen to a sample of the book. And they take that and they plug it into an AI chat program, and they'll ask, how can I revise this? Because they don't want to copy and paste exactly what's online. So they take it and they use a program, because you can tell there's a difference. But they try to give you a quick little snippet of a teaser to hit your ego. Because the first couple of times I got them, I'm like, oh, I should probably respond. There are several options. They'll say, I'm a graphic designer, I'm a video producer, I'm a cinematographic expert, I manage a book club that has 10,000 members in it. What book club has 10,000 members? Excuse me? Hi, I'm an author too. Here's a link to my Amazon page. I'd love to talk with you, author to author. And then another one's, I'm a fan of your work. So they hit that ego. Oh, somebody's paying attention to me. Somebody emailed me. Well, when you get enough of them and you realize that they're all pretty much the same, use AI much. So what I do, and I think I'm perfectly legitimate to do this, I use their name. I don't put their email out because that's probably going to change in a minute. But I'll say, Cindy Jones wrote about Ramonda's extended warranty. And I'll take just the good stuff. I don't take their sales pitch, but I'll use that as a recommendation or a review. I don't know. I just get so, it's easy to hit the delete, but then I started thinking, wait a minute, there's a little bit of nugget in here I can salvage from this. So I started doing that. I recently did a review of Steep Steps that my son wrote in a text to me, and I told him I was going to do it, and he goes, Mom, this wasn't a review. I was just talking to you. I said, I don't care. I'm using it, kiddo. Because he was having difficulty. It hurt him to read my book because he said, what did my mother have to endure to know this information? And I had to reassure this almost 45-year-old, 6'8", former wrestler that Mommy was okay. And yeah, I went through some of the bad stuff that I wrote about, but most of it was done from research. And that made him feel a lot better. But he was really struggling to read my book because it hit close to home with his own narcissism and the people around his world. He said, I can't read that. I said, don't worry about it. Other people can't read it either. It's a trigger for some. And, you know, my angel books are a trigger for others because they don't believe in angels, or they don't believe that we should have communication with angels. They think angels are simply messengers from God, and we have no business talking to them. To each his own.
And this is, again, in the book world, not every book is for every person. And that's okay. But every person has a book that meets that need. Think about that. Yeah. Not every book is for every person, but every person has a book that meets their need. So just because you personally don't like a book that you read, there's two things to do on a review. Don't attack the author. Don't attack their style of writing. And don't say, this book isn't worthwhile, it's not worth reading. Maybe not for you. But I can guarantee you there's somebody out there in this world that needs that book for whatever reason. You can find something, and my mother used to say this, if you read a book with an open mind, you can find something that you like about that book. If it's one sentence, you can find something that you like about that book, but you have to read with an open mind. Never read a book with a closed mind. Personal story, and I've told this story before. When I was in college in my 50s, in my English class, I had to read a book that was written in 1920 for a book review. Do a paper on it. And I called my mother and said, Mother, I cannot handle this book. I cannot get through this book. And she said, why? And I said, it's archaic. It is filled with just closed-minded writings because it was written by a man. She said, Yvonne, open your mind. Well, what? Open your mind. Read the book with an open mind, because you will find what you need in that book to write your paper with. And she was right. Because yes, when I went back and I read the book like I was in the 1920s, and the mindset of men and women in the 1920s, where it was okay for men to have all these mistresses and run all these affairs, but the wife had to stay home, raise kids, and stay quiet. And what it did to the mental breakdown of the wife and she eventually walked into the ocean and committed suicide, it all made sense. I got an A on that paper. So when you read a book by one of our authors, or even my books, and you read it with a preconceived notion of how you're going to read this book and what you're going to get out of this book, you have cheated yourself of learning. And in every book, if you read with an open mind, you learn something. Am I right, Mary?
You're absolutely right. Even if it's just a word. I know Curtis likes to watch YouTube videos. And some of the people he watches are controversial. And I typically get up from the table. If he's watching it while we're eating dinner, if we're watching it on the couch, I'll just get up and walk away and do something different. As I don't always agree. But yesterday he was watching, and this guy was, every argument that someone else threw at him, he countered with numerology. And of course, we just talked about 1111, and that comes from numerology. And he starts talking about this and that, which some of it I understood, and some of it I told my husband, I said, you know, if I studied numerology more, I might be able to debate this guy, but what he's saying makes a little bit of sense. So I sat there a little bit longer and I listened, and there were 3 times that he used a word that I didn't understand from the context or the word. So I'm looking it up, and finally I said, I never knew that. And you know, it came because I just opened my mind. I wanted to see more of what this man was saying, but also because it was in my arsenal of things that I use anyway, numerology. But the fact that I learned some words made me happy. It wasn't a waste of time. You can find words or maybe a scene in the book, something that makes you go, oh, well, I didn't know that before.
Be surprised, folks, at the things that you do learn. One of my favorite authors was a Florida author. Sadly, he's not with us anymore, but his name was Tim Dorsey. The first time that I knew about Tim Dorsey, Jack and I, my late husband, had gone to the library because he liked listening to audiobooks in the car. And we had gone to the library to get some audiobooks. And I saw this one by Tim Dorsey. And I said, what do you think? He said, well, we'll try it. Well, I've never laughed so hard in my life because it was right up my alley. His protagonist is a serial killer, but he only kills criminals. And he has a sidekick that's a pot-smoking alcoholic. And they're hysterical together. But what Tim Dorsey did is he would go all through Florida and visit these little out-of-the-way places and write his books with Coleman and Serge, his protagonist, who was also a photographer, going through these little towns, snapping shots and just happen upon bad people. I learned so much about the state of Florida, and I have even visited some of those little towns that Tim Dorsey went to. And yeah, I'm giving Tim Dorsey a plug because he is absolutely amazing. His wit is so dry, but so funny. And Coleman will just make you roll on the floor laughing. So, whatever you read, whether it's true crime, crime fiction, comedy, dramedy, Ramonda's extended warranty, graphic novels, even children's books, whatever you read with an open mind. And that brings us back full circle to trusting the process. Whatever you send me, I read with an open mind. The only thing I will not publish is erotica. Number one, I get physically sick because I don't think it is necessary in our lives to have that thrown in our face. It leaves something to the imagination. Some of the best books out there are left to the imagination. So don't send me erotica because I'll say, take it, go do whatever. I won't do the covers. I won't do anything. So keep it over yonder, away from me. I feel like I need to go take a shower. But if you come to me with an open mind, and you leave me your manuscripts with an open mind, I can promise you, when you get your covers back, you're going to have the same reaction Dale did when I sent him the cover for I See You. The man cried. He said it's better than my vision. So there you go.
Amazing.
You just got, and
I told him.
you did. So
I did.
Right
I told
now,
him. I said,
these are the authors that we currently have. We have Mary, who has written If I Could Be books. These are all out. If I Could Be a Mermaid, If I Could Be a Giant, If I Could Be a... My mind just went blank. If I Could Be a Mermaid, If I Could Be a Giant, If I Could...
Butterfly Giant Mermaid.
Those are... And then she wrote Too Many Rules, which we promote as Stranger Danger. If I Could Be a Giant, we promote anti-bullying. We wrote, she has out World's Best Grandfather, which I highly recommend parents that you buy for your children to give to their grandfathers if they are blessed to still have them alive, because that grandfather can read that book to that child and find out who is the world's best grandfather. Mary has written...
We were talking earlier...
Go ahead.
We were talking earlier about learning. World's Best Grandfather. Well, all of my books are teaching tools. But the World's Best Grandfather teaches about diversity and acceptance and worldwide cultures in a way that you don't even know you're learning.
And what we did with those graphics is, as I was reading the book to put it together, I went and found graphics of older men in those countries. So you actually have the graphic matching that particular grandfather. And Mary gives that grandfather the name that is used in that particular country. So it's like Mary says, all of her books teach. And child doesn't know they're learning. They're just reading. And it opens up a whole new world for them that stays with them. Then she's got Ramonda's Extended Warranty and... Oh, the one that's not out yet, that's coming out. It will be out on the 18th. It's called Lizard Patrol. She sent me that one morning, and by that afternoon, I'd sent it back to her and said, this is what we're doing. And she said, perfect. And it is about their cat, Kenny, who's known as KK or King Kenny. He was an orange tabby with 4 white paws that literally, he did not have masters, he had staff. And there's
Definitely.
the story is told through his perspective and his voice. So the graphics, especially my favorite, the one that I just absolutely screamed out loud when I saw it, the story is about his staff thought that they had all the groceries out of harm's way and went away for a while, and Kenny decides to go investigating. Well, in the bags was an abundance of his drug of choice, which is catnip. So there's a graphic of him laying on his back with his legs all splayed out and catnip all around him like a junkie. That is one of the funniest graphics that is in that book. And
He was pretty much like a junkie when it came to catnip.
So this is what I say, when y'all let me do what I do, you're going to be surprised, pleasantly surprised, because I don't even think Mary was expecting that book to be that funny with the graphics. And some of the looks that I got when I was pulling up graphics, especially when she tells the story about having to pick him up because he got loose out of his harness outside and she didn't want him to make an escape, and the look on the cat's face is one of dare you. You don't touch the king. Don't even. So this book comes out on the 18th, and I can't wait to see the results of the sales of that book. And then we have a nonprofit, Equi Solutions. Dr. Darlene Williams, who is a child psychologist, has written a book from the eyes of a 10-year-old girl It's a children's book, and it talks about the death of her grandmother. And this 10-year-old goes out. They're on the beach in Florida, and she goes out on the sandbar, and she has an encounter with a seahorse. I'm hoping that after my conversation with her tonight, that I can get this book up. It has been a journey because, bless them, I've been working with a whole slew of people, and everyone has a different vision. And I finally said, no, we're done. We're done here. If you want
Pick a
this book out,
spokesperson.
then we're done. Yeah, pick one person, because we're done. Enough. I'm not going to be pushed and pulled. No, I can't. But it is a beautiful book, and the book will be a bit pricey, and there's a reason for it. The reason is, in the cost of the book, when you send Dr. Darlene an email that is in the book giving your address, she sends you a blue lapis lazuli bracelet with a seahorse on it for your child. The parents can order more for themselves or other family members, and we'll get into that more as we get this book promoted. I am very proud of this book because this is their first book, and they started to go the route of a private printer, found out what it cost. So a friend of mine sent them to me, and I'm hoping that after the debut of this new little book that things will be smooth sailing from here on out. I hope. We will see. But that being said, Carol Bellavance has sent me 2 manuscripts that she's got to flesh out because they are not long enough for even a paperback, so she's going to flesh them out. One of them is called The Advent, and the other one is called Why We Celebrate Lent. I'm very proud of her. This was the girl that didn't want her name on any books. She now has 2 new books out, Open Hearts and Safe Haven Prayers, and a new book that has not been released yet that will be released on the 18th, Holding God's Hand Through the Storm.
Her 2 new books about Lent and Advent.
Mm-hmm.
Could those be turned into children's books?
They probably could.
I'm thinking if they're too short for a standalone, they could be revised, maybe the language changed just a little bit, and use them as teaching tools for children.
Reach out to Carol. Is she on your list? Oh, and
yeah.
Before we get too long in the weeds and have to cut this thing off, beginning in January, the second week in January, at what time did we say, Mary?
1:00 in the afternoon.
We are going to start doing online workshops that are free through Zoom. And Mary is doing an event calendar and getting all the particulars out there. And the reason for this is we want to encourage writers who are not yet published to understand they don't have to do this alone. Every day I see another author go, what am I doing wrong? I put my book up on Amazon and it's not selling. Well, we're going to show you it's not what you're doing wrong, it's what you're not doing at all. And you can. However, because again, I've been in this business a long time, you can do it all by yourself. But you spread yourself so thin that your writing begins. See the look? Your writing begins to suffer.
You can do it all by yourself like I did, and you can drag out the process, because what happens when you do it by yourself, you look at it and it's never good enough. But if it wasn't good enough, Yvonne would tell you, I'm not printing this. It's not going to meet my standards. Just like with Carol's 2 books, one on Advent, one on Lent. And this is why Yvonne and I work so well together. We each think of different things in different ways to make something work. But Yvonne and Carol know that as those 2 books stand, they're not good enough.
And it's
for.
not that the writing, it's not that the writing's not, the writing is perfect. They're not long enough for me to put up on that, because if I try to put it up on Amazon, Amazon's going to say, have you lost your mind? You know the criteria. And it's like I told the newest author when they kept saying, well, can you do this? Can you do that? I cannot. I have specifics that I have to work within. I have parameters that I have to work in. Publisher, I cannot go beyond those parameters, because if I do, then I spend days trying to put a book up. It's not going to go, because Amazon's going to say, have you lost your mind? If you don't do it our way, forget it. It ain't going to happen. So
there are no negotiations in
no,
that.
I
It's
can't
not
call
like
myself.
you can't just pick up the phone and call Amazon and say, yeah, but this is a special situation. Can you just do it for me this one time? No. Now, I know that you've seen on Amazon where you can buy a book and a bracelet together. Or you can buy a book and a plush toy together. Those are rare exceptions, and those are typically like
It's third party. It's a third party
a
business.
third party has been involved, and what they're doing is they're creating this package of things. It's not just a book anymore. It's a whole package. And excuse me. Amazon then treats you as an independent entrepreneur
Right.
and contractor. So there's a whole nother area that if you want to go through, I'm just going to say Midnight Publishing is not for you.
No.
We are all about the books, and all this other fluff can go away.
And the thing is, if a company does it that way, the company advertises on Amazon and you buy it through a third party seller.
Yep.
So that company has a warehouse of stuff they combine. And you buy it off of Amazon, but it's through a third party seller. No. I'm all about the books.
I recently bought some water filters from Amazon, and they failed. They did not work properly. So I contacted Amazon for a refund, thinking I bought it from Amazon, they're going to pay me back. First thing they said was, click here to contact the seller directly.
Yep.
I did, had them on the phone in a heartbeat. I had to go through all this rigmarole because it was a private seller. They are just working with Amazon.
And we don't do that here. I just want my authors. And this is how we got around, and again, when this book comes out, there'll be more to explain how we got around, because they're going to order books and shrink wrap the bracelet in the book. And if people, when they're out doing events or whatever, it will already be together. But if a customer orders it off of Amazon, they have to go to that email address and order the bracelet that is already paid for in the price of that book. It's real simple. But we will educate you more as that transpires.
Yeah.
We are getting to the end of our show. Our current authors are Peggy Engler, Spiritual Inspiration; Alta Desinoid, Spiritual Inspiration; Carol Balavance, Spiritual Inspiration; Dale Veely, Spiritual Inspiration. Then you have children's authors Rose Padrick, Linda Humphrey, Mary Brotherton. Is that the only? Isaac Jones. I think that's all the children's authors. Carol Speardoyce. She has 2 little cute books out. I think that's all. Yeah, the little flamingos. I think that's all my children's authors. Spiritual Inspiration, Andrea Dean Van Scoyoc. She writes Gothic novels as well as vampires. Mary writes adult books as well as being a children's author. You have me, I write whatever comes to my head. You have Kim Carmichael, who writes romance. And then every day, and you have Gwendolyn Law, who writes about domestic violence, Sharon Richardson, who writes about gardening and the mob. I know, right? Ellie Ryan, who writes about police thrillers, Jason Wolfgang Gerhardt, who writes paranormal detective stories. Our authors are as varied as our books are. And beginning in January, make a note on your calendar. The second Tuesday of the month, we will be doing a Zoom workshop at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Once that workshop is completed, we will upload it to all of our social media, our YouTube, our website, our Spotify, wherever I can upload it, that's where we're going to upload it because it is free. But in order to attend, Mary will send all the things out that you need to do, and it basically you have to send her your email so that she can send you the link to join us on Zoom. This will be so much fun, and it's free.
Would you like for me to give them a rundown of what we plan to talk about throughout the year?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, we're going to start with publishers' guidelines and contracts. So we'll tell you, a little bit more about what they are and how important they are to follow. And then in February, we're planning on talking about trusting the process. I know you hear us talk about it a lot, but there's more to it. You have to let it go once you trust the process. And we'll get into the nitty-gritty of that. March, we're going to talk more about manuscripts, why it's important to create them the way the publisher wants them. April, we're going to dig deep into scammers and spammers, predators, how to avoid losing your money. May, we're going to talk about how to market your book and how to take advantage of some of the free options. And if you notice, Midnight Publishing is doing a lot of marketing for you, but we're going to tell you how to market so that it enhances even what Midnight Publishing is doing. July, and you don't have to go to all of these events, you can pick one, and I'll make a master list so you can pick one or two or all of them. We're just doing one a month. And anyway, in July we're going to talk about, can your book be a bestseller and how that works. There are different levels of best-selling, so we talk about all the different options. August is editing. Do you actually need to hire an editor before you submit your manuscript? September, this is a fun favorite. Do you actually need an agent? Now we know you don't need an agent to work with Midnight Publishing. But if you don't want to work with Midnight Publishing, we're going to give you some real life stories about what these agents can and can't do for you. Formatting your book, how to do it with or without photographs, what to do if you need images and don't have an illustrator. We're going to talk about all those different avenues and options. November, this is where, well, Yvonne and I both are really super organized, but we're going to give you some ideas of how to help you organize your ideas and what you should do. How do you remember? Because, it's not always easy to juggle all these ideas in our head. And then I'm kind of looking forward to December. We're calling that Participant's Choice because we're pretty sure from past events we have done, while you are in maybe the January or March class, you're thinking, well, why don't we do such and such? Or how does so-and-so happen? So if we get a lot of questions, a lot of feedback from the participants, we may customize the last class of the year based on your questions and comments about previous ones. Because we can't talk, we can talk all day long, trust me. But we're not going to hold these classes all day. They're going to start at 1 o'clock, hoping to have them be an hour to an hour and a half, maybe two with the Q&A. It depends on what the audience and participants feel like is good. But at the end of the year, we want to bring all that together and kind of like a wrap up, but also hitting any key points we might have missed in the early classes. And that's that.
And as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, 2026 looks to be an exceptional year. I told Mary I feel like by this time next year we should be up to probably 100 authors. And that is why things have to be streamlined. Things have to be done right. Things have to go by the requirements. We're not calling them guidelines anymore. We're calling them requirements because every
They're not
author,
hard.
no, and every author deserves that one-on-one attention because they are that important to me. Everybody is my firstborn. Every one of your books that goes out, I get excited.
Y'all, don't let Yvonne fool you. We're not like her firstborn. We're like her first grandchild.
Well, there is that.
Oh, the love and respect and common kindness is what keeps me in Yvonne's shadow. I love working with her. I've never been steered in a bad direction. We're talking 20 years plus. 20 years plus. Once we hit 20, we stopped counting. And we're like,
Yeah.
we've known each other at least 20 years.
At least.
But she's never, ever, ever steered me wrong. And here I am, 15 books in, I'll call it 4 months, from August to December. But it was early August and it's early December now. But in the last quarter, I've published 15 books because I learned to trust and let go.
Go back to writing.
Yeah.
And doing your Canva. So,
Yeah, I really enjoy writing and marketing. Those are two of the things that make me happy.
and then on Saturday, Mary and I will be in Melbourne. If you go to the Midnight Publishing Facebook page, you will see where it is at an equestrian center. And Mary will have all of her books except for Lizard Patrol. That one.
Yes, because I just got from the balcony in the mail the other day.
And she was so excited. So with that, I am going to say thank you, Mary, for another hour and a half of exciting, engaging, informative, educational fun. Thank you, audience, for listening. Please share this. It is something that we don't charge for yet again. If I charged for everything I did, I could move to Bali, a rich person. But that being said, or maybe the Highlands of Scotland. But that being said, I am going to go bowl on a league that I'm really tired of bowling now. It's been a long year and we've still got to the 1st of March. But I am committed. Maybe I shouldn't be committed. But either way. Until next...
I think you should go start bowling strikes and surprise them all.
That would be interesting. So until next Wednesday, we both say, have the day you deserve, and we hope that people are as pleasant to you as you are to them. Bye, my dear friend.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci.
Bye-bye.